The corridor stretches before you, familiar in its quiet constancy. Soft light falls from no particular source, touching stone that might be warm or cool, you can't quite tell, and it doesn't matter. Your footsteps make no sound here. You've walked this path before, or perhaps you've only dreamed of walking it. Either way, you know where you're going. Ahead, a door waits. Not grand, not hidden. Just a door, painted a color somewhere between cream and pale gray. The handle fits your hand as though shaped for it. You turn it slowly, feeling the mechanism click with gentle precision. The door opens inward, and you step through. On the other side, you find yourself in a space that feels both new and remembered. The corridor hasn't vanished, it's simply behind you now, patient and available. You've arrived somewhere that asks nothing of you except to be here, breathing, present, and still. The room you enter is neither large nor small. It simply fits. The walls hold a texture like old plaster, smoothed by time and countless careful hands. A single window lets in light that suggests late afternoon, though no landscape shows beyond the glass, only a soft luminescence, as if the world outside has agreed to remain abstract for now. You notice the floor beneath your feet, worn wood, the kind that's been walked on enough to develop its own quiet geography of lighter and darker boards. There's a table here, low and simple, made from wood that matches the floor. On it rests a ceramic cup, empty but clean, and a folded cloth and muted linen. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing insists on meaning. These objects exist in their own patient way, content to be exactly what they are. You move further into the room, your body adjusting to the temperature, not warm, not cool, but precisely neutral, as though the air has learned the exact measure of comfort your skin requires. A chair waits near the table, its back gently curved, its seat worn smooth. You don't need to sit yet. You can simply stand here, noticing how the light falls across the floor in a wide, unhurried band. Dust motes drift through it, so slowly they seem suspended rather than falling. You watch them for a moment, then let your gaze soften, allowing the room to hold you without effort. The ceiling above is crossed by a single wooden beam, darkened with age. You trace its length with your eyes, following the grain and the small imperfections, a knot here, a slight curve there. It reminds you that even in stillness, things carry their history. The beam has held this ceiling for years, perhaps decades, doing its work without complaint or praise. There's something restful in that. You take a breath, deeper than the last, and feel your lungs expand fully. The air here tastes clean, faintly mineral, like the air near old stone or beside a quiet well. It fills you without resistance, then leaves just as easily. Your shoulders drop slightly. You hadn't realized you were holding them so high. The room seems to notice this small release, and in response, the light shifts just a fraction, not brighter, not dimmer, but softer somehow, more accommodating. Near the window, a shelf holds a few objects, a smooth river stone, a small wooden bowl, a spool of thread the color of undyed wool. These things have no particular purpose here. They're not decoration, not tools, just presences. You could touch them if you wanted, feel their weight and texture, but you could also simply let them be. The choice is entirely yours, and neither option carries more value than the other. The walls, you notice now, aren't quite uniform. One section shows a faint pattern, as though someone once began to paint a design and then decided against it, leaving only the gentlest suggestion of loops and curves. You can see them if you look directly, but they fade into the wall's texture when you glance away. It's a kind of visual breath, there, then not there, then there again. You move toward the chair and place your hand on its back. The wood feels solid, reliable, warmed by the ambient light. You could sit now, or you could continue standing. Both feel equally possible. Time here doesn't press. It simply unfolds, moment by moment, each one as valid as the last. You become aware of your own heartbeat, steady and unhurried, keeping its own gentle rhythm. The room seems to breathe with you, expanding slightly on your inhale, settling on your exhale. Outside the window, the light begins an almost imperceptible shift, growing slightly warmer, moving from afternoon toward evening without any sense of loss or urgency. This is simply what light does. It changes, it moves, it adapts. You stand in the center of this small, patient space, held by nothing except your own willingness to be here. The corridor waits behind the door, unchanged and unchanging. But for now, you're here, in this room, learning the particular quality of its stillness. You settle into the chair, your body finding its position without effort. The seat receives your weight evenly, and you feel yourself supported, held without restriction. Your hands rest on the armrests, or perhaps in your lap, wherever they've chosen to land feels correct. You close your eyes, not to block anything out, but simply to shift your attention inward for a moment. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you become aware of what you might call silence, though it's not quite empty. There's a quality to the quiet here, a texture. It's the sound of air settling, of walls holding space, of your own breath moving in and out. This isn't the oppressive silence of isolation, nor is it the charged quiet before something begins. It's simply the natural state of a room at rest. You open your eyes again, slowly. The room hasn't changed, but you see it differently now, each element more distinct, yet somehow more integrated. The way the light touches the edge of the table, the grain pattern in the floorboards, the slight unevenness in the plaster walls. These small details don't demand analysis. They simply exist, offering themselves to your attention if you wish to receive them. A faint sound reaches you, so subtle you can't immediately identify it. It might be the house itself, wood expanding or contracting with the day's slow temperature shift. It might be air moving through some unseen gap. Or it might be nothing at all, just the auditory equivalent of those dust motes, drifting through your awareness and then dissolving. You don't need to name it. You can let it be mysterious, undefined, just another thread in the room's quiet tapestry. Your breathing has slowed without you consciously directing it. Each inhale fills you with that clean, mineral air. Each exhale releases something you didn't know you were holding, not tension exactly, just a kind of unnecessary vigilance. Your body is learning the room's rhythm, syncing with its unhurried pace. Your muscles release their habitual gripping, softening into the chair's support. The light continues its gentle shift. You notice now that shadows have begun to lengthen, though so gradually that you couldn't say exactly when it started. The shadow of the table reaches across the floor like a quiet gesture. The beam overhead casts its own shadow on the ceiling, creating a doubled line, parallel and patient. These shadows don't darken the room, they simply add depth, dimension, a sense of the day's natural progression. You become aware of your jaw, and realize it's been slightly clenched. You let it soften, creating a small space between your upper and lower teeth. The release ripples through your face, your neck, down into your shoulders. It's such a small adjustment, yet it changes everything. You can feel your pulse in your throat now, steady and reassuring. Your body is doing what it knows how to do, keeping you alive, keeping you present, asking for nothing in return. The cup on the table catches your eye again. You imagine filling it with cool water, lifting it to your lips, feeling the ceramic's smooth rim against your skin. But you don't need to move. The thought alone is satisfying, complete in itself. The cup remains empty, and that's perfectly fine. It's ready if you need it, content if you don't. Your hands, wherever they've settled, feel heavy in a pleasant way. The weight of them reminds you that you have a body, that you exist in physical space, that gravity is doing its gentle work of keeping you anchored. Your feet rest flat on the floor, and through them you can sense the solid presence of the earth below, not dramatically, not mystically, just the simple fact of ground meeting foot, support meeting supported. The room holds you without grasping. The chair supports you without demanding anything. The light illuminates without exposing. Everything here has found its proper balance, its natural place. And so have you, for this moment, in this space. You're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, which is nothing at all except being here, breathing, present, and increasingly still. Your gaze drifts to the window again, drawn by that sourceless light beyond the glass. You rise from the chair, not because you must, but because your body wants to move, wants to approach. Your legs feel steady beneath you, carrying you across the worn floorboards with easy, measured steps. The distance from chair to window is short, perhaps 6 paces, perhaps 7. You don't count. Numbers don't matter here. You stand before the glass and notice its imperfections, tiny bubbles trapped in the pane, a slight waviness that speaks of old methods, human hands, patient craft. When you look through it, that abstract luminescence remains, neither day nor night, neither inside nor outside. It's simply light, existing for its own sake, asking nothing of you except perhaps to acknowledge its gentle presence. Your reflection appears faintly in the glass, translucent and ghostly. You can see through yourself to the glow beyond. This double image, you and not you, here and elsewhere, doesn't trouble you. It's just another layer, another way of being present. You lift your hand and watch its reflection move, solid and spectral at once. Your fingers spread slightly, and you see them doubled, overlapping, occupying 2 spaces simultaneously. The window frame is painted the same indeterminate color as everything else in this room, not white, not gray, but something in between, something that accepts light without transforming it. You touch the sill and feel paint worn smooth by previous hands, previous visitors to this space. They've stood here too, looking out at nothing and everything, finding their own version of what you're finding now. A small gap exists where the frame meets the wall, and through it comes the faintest breath of air. Not a draft exactly, nothing so active. Just a gentle reminder that this room isn't sealed, isn't separate from whatever lies beyond. The air moves through, connecting inside to outside, mixing them slowly, keeping everything fresh and viable. You feel this tiny current against your wrist, cool and subtle, a whisper without words. You lean slightly forward, resting your forehead against the glass. It's cool against your skin, solid and real. The glass receives the warmth from your brow, absorbing it without complaint. You close your eyes and simply stand like this, touching the boundary between here and there, connected to both, claimed by neither. Your breath fogs the glass slightly, a small cloud that appears and fades, marking your presence without permanence. Behind you, the room continues its quiet existence. The table, the chair, the shelf with its few objects, all of them rest in their places, undisturbed by your absence. They don't need you to exist. They're complete in themselves, patient witnesses to whoever comes and goes. This realization brings a strange comfort. You're not required. You're simply welcome. You open your eyes and straighten, stepping back from the window. The fog from your breath has already vanished, leaving the glass clear again. The light beyond remains constant, that same soft radiance that reveals nothing and hides nothing. You've learned something from the window, though you couldn't put it into words. It's a feeling more than a thought, a sense of boundaries that connect rather than separate, of surfaces that receive rather than repel. Turning back to the room, you see it again as if for the first time. The way the light falls across the table's edge, the shadow of the beam overhead, the texture of the walls with their ghost pattern of abandoned decoration. Everything is exactly as it was, yet somehow more itself, more present, more real. You've returned without going anywhere. You've discovered without searching. The window has given you its secret, which is simply this: sometimes what lies beyond doesn't matter as much as where you stand while looking. You move back to the table, drawn by its simplicity. This time you don't sit. Instead you stand beside it, looking down at its surface. The wood is old but well maintained, its grain flowing in long waves like water frozen mid-motion. Someone has cared for this table, oiled it, kept it clean, allowed it to age with dignity. Your fingers trace one of the grain lines, following its curve from one edge toward the center. The ceramic cup still rests there, that empty vessel waiting for nothing. You pick it up, feeling its weight in your palm. It's heavier than you expected, solid and dense, made by someone who understood that objects should have presence. The glaze is simple, a pale color that might be ivory or might be the lightest gray. Where your thumb rests, you feel a slight indentation, a place worn by countless previous thumbs, all holding this cup the same way you're holding it now. You turn the cup slowly, examining it from all angles. The bottom shows a small mark, not a signature, just a symbol, maybe a maker's mark, maybe just a decorative impulse. 3 curved lines that might be waves or might be wind or might be nothing representational at all. You run your fingertip over them, feeling the slight depression where they've been carved or stamped into the clay before firing. Setting the cup back down, you notice how it returns to its exact spot, a slightly lighter circle in the table's surface where it usually sits. The wood there has been protected from the sun and air, remaining a fraction paler than the surrounding area. This cup has lived here a long time, marking its territory through absence as much as presence. You respect this small geography, this cup-shaped claim on the table's expanse. The folded cloth draws your attention next. You lift it, feeling the weight of good linen, substantial and real. When you unfold it, the cloth reveals itself as larger than you expected, perhaps a meter square, perhaps more. The fabric is woven in a simple pattern, regular and calm. You can see the individual threads if you look closely, crossing and recrossing in their ancient dance, creating strength through repetition, through patience, through the accumulated work of thousands of intersections. You hold the cloth up to the light from the window. The weave becomes more visible, a structured grid allowing tiny points of illumination through. It's beautiful in its utility, perfect in its simple purpose. This cloth has dried dishes, covered bread, wrapped fragile things for transport. It's been washed and dried and folded hundreds of times, growing softer with each cycle, more itself with each use. You fold it again, matching corner to corner, edge to edge, creating clean lines and precise angles. The cloth cooperates, remembering its creases, falling naturally into its accustomed shape. You place it back on the table where it was, and it settles into place as though it never left. These small acts of handling and replacing feel like a ritual, though there's nothing religious about them. Just the simple satisfaction of objects returning to their rightful places, of order maintained through gentle attention. The table itself seems pleased, though of course tables don't feel pleasure. Still, there's a sense of rightness, of completion, of a brief interaction concluded satisfactorily. You rest your hand flat on the table's surface, palm down, fingers spread. The wood is smooth and slightly cool, and through it you imagine you can feel the tree it once was, the years of growth, the slow addition of ring after ring, the patient accumulation of cellulose and lignin, all leading to this moment when your living hand touches what was once living wood. Your reflection appears faintly in the table's polished surface, distorted and ghostly. Another version of you, caught between dimensions, existing in the thin layer of reflection that surfaces create. You move your hand and watch the reflection move with you, always synchronized, always faithful. The table returns to stillness when you lift your hand away, its surface unmarked by your presence, ready for the next moment, the next hand, the next small interaction in its long, quiet life. Your attention shifts to the shelf near the window, that simple wooden ledge holding its few objects. You approach slowly, giving yourself time to see each item clearly before you arrive. The shelf itself is nothing remarkable, just a board secured to the wall with simple brackets, painted the same neutral tone as the window frame. But what it holds has its own quiet authority. The river stone sits at the left end, smoothed by water over years or decades or centuries. You pick it up, and it fills your palm perfectly, as though shaped specifically for human hands. The stone is cool and heavy, its surface almost silky from countless encounters with flowing water, tumbling over riverbeds, colliding gently with other stones, gradually losing all its sharp edges until only this perfect oval remained. You can see bands of color in the stone, gray and cream and the faintest suggestion of rust orange where iron once seeped into cracks and was subsequently polished smooth. Each band tells a story of mineral deposits, of geological time, of processes so slow they make human lifespans seem like single breaths. You hold the stone for a long moment, feeling its solidity, its undeniable there-ness. Then you place it back on the shelf, and it rocks slightly before settling into the small depression it's worn into the wood over time. The wooden bowl comes next. It's small, perhaps the size of cupped hands, carved from a single piece of pale wood. The grain spirals from the base to the rim, creating a subtle pattern that draws your eye inward. Someone made this bowl with care, hollowing it slowly, sanding it smooth, finishing it with oil that brought out the wood's natural luster. You lift it and hold it up to the light. The bowl glows slightly, translucent at its thinnest points near the rim. Inside the bowl, you notice tool marks, tiny parallel lines where a carving implement shaped the interior. These marks weren't sanded away, left intentionally as evidence of the making process, as honesty about the bowl's origins. Your finger traces them, feeling the gentle ridges, imagining the hands that held the cutting tool, the concentration required, the satisfaction of watching the bowl emerge from raw wood. You set the bowl down and it rocks slightly, not quite level. One side sits a fraction higher than the other, perhaps because the wood dried unevenly, perhaps because the maker chose to honor the wood's natural tendency rather than forcing perfect symmetry. This small imperfection makes the bowl more real, more trustworthy somehow. Perfect things can feel distant, untouchable. This bowl, with its tiny wobble, belongs in the world of use in hands and actual living. The spool of thread is last, and smallest. The thread is natural colored, somewhere between cream and tan, the color of raw wool or undyed cotton. The spool itself is wooden, worn smooth by handling. Someone has wound this thread carefully, keeping the tension even, creating neat layers that build from one end of the spool to the other. You can see the individual fibers in the thread, twisted together to create strength, multiple strands becoming one. You don't unwind the thread. To do so feels unnecessary, almost presumptuous. The thread exists in its wound state, ready for use, patient in its readiness. You can imagine stitching with it, repairing something torn, joining two pieces of fabric with careful, even stitches. But that imagining is enough. The thread doesn't need to prove its purpose. It simply waits, knowing what it is, confident in its eventual usefulness. You step back from the shelf and regard all three objects together. Stone, wood, fiber. Elements of earth, rendered into forms that human hands can hold and use. There's no apparent connection between them, no obvious reason they should share the shelf. Yet together they create a small constellation of meaning, a tiny universe of natural materials transformed by human attention into objects of beauty and utility. The shelf holds them without commentary. The wall supports the shelf without complaint. The room contains all of it, shelf, objects, wall, you, in its patient embrace. Nothing here is extraordinary. Everything here is exactly what it needs to be. You feel yourself settling deeper into this understanding, into the comfort of simplicity, the peace of things that don't pretend to be more than they are. You turn your attention to the walls themselves, those vertical planes that define the room's boundaries. They're not perfectly straight or perfectly smooth. Each surface shows its age and its history in subtle ways, a hairline crack here, a slight bulge there where the plaster settled unevenly, a discoloration where water once traveled down from the ceiling before the leak was repaired. Moving closer to one wall, you can see the layers beneath the current surface. Where the plaster has chipped away near the floor, earlier layers show through, older paint in different shades, bits of horsehair mixed into antique plaster, the ghost of previous decisions about color and finish. This wall has been many walls, repaired and repainted, maintained and refreshed, yet always fundamentally itself, holding this space against the outside world. You place your palm flat against the plaster. It's neither warm nor cool, having reached equilibrium with the room's temperature. The texture is slightly rough, like very fine sandpaper, and under your hand you can feel the wall's solidity. Behind this thin layer of plaster lies brick or stone or wooden studs. You can't tell which, and it doesn't matter. What matters is the wall's reliability, its steady insistence on separating here from there, inside from outside. That faint pattern you noticed earlier reveals itself more clearly now that you're close. It's not quite a floral design, not quite geometric. Someone began painting a decorative border, perhaps, and then stopped after completing only a small section. The paint they used was barely darker than the wall itself, creating suggestion rather than statement. You trace the visible curves with your fingertip, following them until they fade into uncertainty, into the wall's general texture. Why did they stop? You can't know. Perhaps they decided the pattern was unnecessary. Perhaps they ran out of paint or time or interest. Perhaps they realized that the wall was more beautiful unadorned, that the pattern distracted from the simple pleasure of unbroken surface. Whatever the reason, they left this small beginning, this gesture toward decoration that became instead a gesture toward restraint. Moving along the wall, you notice variations in the paint application. Here, brush strokes are visible, long sweeps from ceiling to floor. There, the paint is smoother, probably applied with a roller. Different people, different tools, different moments in the room's long history, all layered together into the present surface. The wall is a palimpsest, a document written and erased and written again, each layer leaving traces that observant eyes can find. Near the corner, where two walls meet, you see a small patch that's been carefully repaired. The plaster here is newer, smoother, whiter. Someone cared enough to fix this wall, to maintain the room's integrity. They mixed the plaster, applied it, smoothed it, waited for it to dry. Then they painted it, trying to match the existing color, getting close but not quite perfect. The patch stands as evidence of care, of attention, of the ongoing work required to keep any space intact. You step back to see all four walls together. They enclose you completely, yet you don't feel trapped. Instead, you feel held, contained in the positive sense, given a defined space in which to exist without the overwhelming infinity of unlimited space. These walls are a gift, really. They create the possibility of interior, of privacy, of a place to be that's separate from the general everywhere. The ceiling, you notice, meets the walls at simple angles, no crown molding or decorative borders. Just the clean intersection of horizontal and vertical planes, forming the corners that define this cubic volume of air and light. Someone could have complicated these junctions with architectural flourishes, but they chose not to. They let the geometry speak for itself, trusted that right angles and flat planes were interesting enough, beautiful enough, sufficient. You complete your circuit of the room, returning to your starting point. The walls have revealed themselves to you, not dramatically, not with any grand revelation, but quietly, honestly, showing you their age and their care, their repairs, and their restraint. They've stood here through seasons and years, expanding slightly in heat, contracting in cold, always returning to their proper dimensions, always doing their simple work of holding space, of creating room, of making inside possible. Your gaze travels upward to that single beam crossing the ceiling. From below, you can see its full length, its substantial width, the way it bears the weight above without visible strain. The wood is darker than the furniture, weathered to a deep brown that suggests decades of exposure before it was incorporated into this room's structure. This beam had a previous life, perhaps, before it came here, part of a barn, a ship, some other building long since gone. You study the beam's underside, noting the tool marks visible even from this distance. Someone shaped this wood with adze and saw, removing the rough bark and sapwood, revealing the hardwood beneath. The marks they left speak of patient, physical labor, the swing of the adze, the draw of the saw, the gradual transformation of tree into timber, of raw material into structural element. A single knot interrupts the beam's smooth underside, a place where a branch once grew from the trunk. The knot is darker than the surrounding wood, denser, harder, a concentration of grain that swirls around its center like water around a stone. Someone could have cut this section out, rejected this piece of wood as flawed, but they didn't. They accepted the knot, incorporated it, let it become part of the beam's character rather than a defect to be eliminated. You imagine the tree this beam came from, how many years it grew, how tall it stood, what weather it endured. The beam itself contains the memory of all those years, compressed into its dense wood, written in its growth rings. Each ring represents a single year of life, a complete cycle of spring growth and summer abundance and fall preparation and winter rest. If you could count them, they would number decades, perhaps more than a century. The beam doesn't sag. It shows no sign of weakness or failure. Whatever weight it carries, the ceiling, perhaps another floor above, it bears easily, without drama, doing the work it was cut and placed to do. There's something admirable in this, in the beam's steady fulfillment of its purpose, its daily, hourly, moment-by-moment resistance to gravity's patient pull. It succeeds so completely that you don't notice it, until you do, and then you can't quite believe you ever overlooked something so substantial. Light from the window strikes the beam at an angle, highlighting its texture, creating small shadows in the tool marks and deeper shadows where the grain dips. These shadows give the beam dimension, make it three-dimensional rather than a simple silhouette against the ceiling. You watch how the shadows shift as the light continues its slow change, how what was shadow becomes light and what was light falls into shadow, all in the unhurried dance of sun and wood and time. You notice a small detail, initials carved into one end of the beam, near where it meets the wall. The letters are worn and difficult to read, but they're there, someone's mark, perhaps the person who cut the tree or shaped the beam or installed it in this room. A signature in wood, a claim of craftsmanship, a small assertion of presence that says I made this or I was here or simply I existed. The initials have outlived their carver, probably, but they remain, carrying that brief human claim forward through decades. The beam's presence reorganizes the room. Without it, the ceiling would be an unbroken expanse, featureless and slightly oppressive. The beam divides that expanse, creates rhythm, adds a horizontal line that balances the vertical walls. It's an organizing principle, a spine that runs the length of the space, giving the room structure beyond its simple rectangular box. You lower your gaze, letting the beam return to the edge of your awareness where it usually lives. It will continue its work whether you notice it or not, holding what needs to be held, bearing what needs to be borne, doing its job with the quiet competence of all things that function properly. The beam asks nothing of you. It simply offers itself as evidence that things can be strong and old and beautiful simultaneously, that utility and aesthetics need not be separate, that the bones of a room can be visible and right. Your attention drops to the floor, that plane on which everything else rests. You've been standing on it this entire time, trusting it implicitly, but now you look at it directly, seeing it rather than simply using it. The floorboards run lengthwise across the room, each board perhaps 8 inches wide, varying slightly in their dimensions as hand-milled lumber tends to do. The wood is worn in paths that reveal previous traffic, lighter patches where many feet have walked, smoother areas where furniture once stood, protecting the boards beneath from the gradual abrasion of footsteps. You can read the room's history in these variations, understanding where people habitually moved, where they paused, where they tended to linger. You crouch down to see the floor more closely. The grain in each board tells its own story, tight growth rings indicating hard years, wider rings showing seasons of abundance, occasional knots where branches grew. No two boards are identical. Each came from a different part of the tree, or perhaps different trees entirely, yet together they form a coherent surface, unified by their shared function and their accumulated patina. Between the boards run thin gaps, dark lines where the wood has shrunk slightly with age and dryness. These gaps are narrow but visible, and through them you can see darkness, the void beneath the floor where air circulates in the hidden spaces between joists. These gaps remind you that the floor is not a solid mass but an assembly, boards laid side by side, nailed to supports below, creating surface through accumulation. You run your fingers along one board, feeling its texture. The wood is smooth but not slick, worn by years of contact to a pleasant softness that still retains some grip. No splinters threaten. The boards have been sanded and finished and walked on until all their sharp edges, all their rough patches, have been worn away or compressed into submission. This is floor as it should be, supportive, reliable, kind to bare feet. Standing again, you walk slowly across the room, paying attention to how the floor receives your weight. Each board gives slightly under your steps, flexing on its nails, then springing back when you move on. The floor is not rigid. It breathes with your movement, participates in your presence, adjusts itself to accommodate you. You hear small creaks and sighs as the wood moves, sounds so familiar you usually ignore them, but now they seem like communication, the floor announcing your progress, marking your passage through space. Near the wall, one board is slightly lighter than the others, a replacement installed at some point when the original board failed. This newer board hasn't yet acquired the deep honey color of its neighbors. It stands out, obvious in its relative youth, but it's doing its job, holding firm, slowly adapting to its environment, beginning its own journey toward the weathered beauty the other boards have achieved. You notice how the floor meets the walls. No baseboards here, just the clean edge where vertical meets horizontal, where wall plaster descends to touch wood. This junction shows small gaps where settling has occurred, where the house has shifted imperceptibly over years, creating spaces that could be caulked but haven't been. These gaps don't trouble you. They're evidence of the building's life, its ongoing adjustment to gravity and weather, its patient response to the forces that act on all structures. The floor reflects light from the window in its own particular way. The worn paths show brighter, their compressed wood more reflective than the less traveled areas. This creates a subtle map of movement, a diagram of how people have inhabited this space, where they've chosen to walk versus where they've avoided. You're following those paths now, probably, adding your own small contribution to their continued definition. Kneeling, you place both palms flat on the floor. The wood is cool against your skin, solid and reassuring. Through your hands you can feel the floor's connection to the earth below, joists resting on foundation, foundation sitting on soil, soil extending down through layers of history and geology to bedrock. Everything connects. Everything supports everything else. You're part of this structure now, another weight distributed across the boards, another pressure pressing down through foundation to earth, your mass contributing to the general downward pull that keeps everything anchored, stable, real. You stand again, but this time you don't focus on objects or surfaces. Instead, you pay attention to the space between things, the air that fills the room, invisible and essential. You breathe it in and feel it enter your lungs, feel your chest expand to accommodate it, feel the oxygen passing through membranes into your blood. This air has been here in this room, mixing and circulating, touching every surface, filling every gap. The air carries subtle information. You can smell the wood, that faint, pleasant scent of old timber, resinous and slightly sweet. You can detect the mineral quality of the plaster walls, chalky and clean. There's something else too, harder to identify, perhaps the metallic tang of dust, perhaps the ghost of smoke from a fire long extinguished, perhaps just the particular scent that all inhabited spaces develop over time, a combination of everything that's happened within their walls. You move your hand slowly through the air, feeling its resistance. Air isn't nothing. It has substance, weight, presence. It pushes back against your hand, however gently. Your hand displaces it, creating small currents that swirl and eddy and eventually settle, redistributing the air molecules throughout the room. You're in constant exchange with the air, breathing it, warming it, adding moisture from your breath and skin, taking oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. The temperature of the air is perfectly neutral, neither drawing heat from your body nor pressing warmth into it. This suggests remarkable equilibrium, a balance achieved between all the factors that determine temperature: the sun's radiation through the window, the insulation of the walls, the heat capacity of the wood and plaster, your own body's warmth. The room has found its stable point, and in doing so has created an environment where you can forget about temperature entirely, where your body doesn't have to work to stay comfortable. Light moves through the air, made visible only when it strikes surfaces. But you know the air is full of light, photons streaming from the window, bouncing off the walls, ricocheting between surfaces until they're absorbed or escape back through the glass. The air mediates all this light, refracts it slightly, scatters the shorter wavelengths more than the longer ones, creating the particular quality of illumination that characterizes this space. Dust motes still drift in the illuminated column near the window. You watch them carefully, seeing how they follow invisible currents, rising and falling in response to temperature gradients too subtle for you to feel. The dust rides the air like boats on water, at the mercy of forces beyond its control, yet somehow staying aloft, suspended in this gaseous sea. Each mote is a tiny world, a flake of skin, perhaps, or a fiber from cloth, or a fragment of wood or plaster, carrying its own small history. You close your eyes and simply listen to the air. At first you hear nothing, but as you attend more carefully, subtle sounds emerge. The whisper of air moving through that tiny gap in the window frame. The almost inaudible hum of your own circulatory system, blood rushing through vessels. The faint creak of the house settling, transmitted through air from wall to ear. The room is never truly silent. It's full of tiny sounds, the acoustic signature of existence itself. Opening your eyes, you become aware of the air's volume. The room contains a specific amount of air, measurable in cubic meters, weighable if you had the right equipment. This air is held between the walls, beneath the ceiling, above the floor, filling every available space except where solid objects displace it. The room is more air than anything else, really. The wood and plaster are just boundaries that define where air can exist and where it cannot. You take another deep breath, filling your lungs completely, and hold it for a moment. This air, now inside you, has become part of you temporarily. Its oxygen is passing into your bloodstream, feeding your cells, enabling the chemical reactions that constitute your life. Then you exhale, returning the air to the room, altered by your body's processes, now carrying carbon dioxide and water vapor and infinitesimal traces of whatever your metabolism has added to it. The air doesn't belong to you. You borrow it briefly, use it, and give it back. It circulates through you and through this room and through the larger atmosphere beyond, never static, always moving, always available. The air asks nothing and gives everything. It supports your life without judgment, without preference, without any sense of its own importance. It simply is, present, essential, invisible, and utterly reliable. Your awareness shifts to the door you entered through, still closed, still patient in its frame. You turn to look at it directly, seeing it now with the accumulated understanding you've gained from your time in this room. The door is painted the same neutral tone as everything else, fitting seamlessly into the room's aesthetic without calling attention to itself. The handle, which you held when you entered, catches the light. It's made of simple metal, perhaps brass or bronze, dulled by countless hands to a soft matte finish. You can see where patterns on the handle, places where fingers have gripped more often, where palms have pushed. The metal has shaped itself to human use, worn thinner at the contact points, developing its own ergonomic perfection through the accumulated touch of generations. You approach the door slowly, in no hurry to leave but curious about this threshold, this boundary between the room and the corridor beyond. The door is solid, you can tell by its visual weight, by the substantial hinges that hold it, by the way it sits perfectly still in its frame without rattling or shifting. Someone built this door well, fitting it precisely, hanging it true, ensuring it would open and close smoothly for years. The wood grain is visible beneath the paint, especially where the light strikes at an angle. The door was made from vertical boards, probably, joined together side by side and reinforced with horizontal bracing on the other side. You can see the faint lines where the boards meet, where paint has settled slightly thicker in the joints. The door is an assembly, like everything else in this room, pieces brought together into functional wholeness. You place your ear against the door, listening. From the corridor beyond comes nothing, no footsteps, no voices, no sounds of any kind. The corridor exists in its own patient silence, waiting for whenever you choose to return to it. There's no pressure to leave, no sense that you've overstayed or that the room needs you to go. The door is simply there, offering passage whenever you desire it, holding the corridor at bay until you're ready. Your hand finds the handle again, but you don't turn it. Not yet. You simply hold it, feeling the metal warm under your palm, matching its temperature to yours. The handle fits your grip as perfectly as it did when you entered, shaped by use into ideal form. You could turn it now, pull the door open, step back into the corridor and continue walking. Or you could stay here longer. Both options remain equally available. You notice a small detail, a tiny mark near the bottom of the door, perhaps where someone's shoe once scraped against it, leaving a dark scuff. The mark has been painted over, but you can still see it, a ghost beneath the newer paint layer. This door has seen impacts and contact, has been bumped and knocked and brushed against countless times. It bears these encounters with dignity, absorbing them into its surface, carrying them forward as part of its history. Stepping back, you see the door in context again, how it fits into its frame, how the frame sits within the wall, how everything connects and supports everything else. The door is part of a system, a component in the room's architecture. It's not separate from the room but integral to it, defining the room as much as the walls do, creating the possibility of inside by providing a controlled point of passage. You realize you're not afraid of leaving. The room has been generous, showing you its elements, allowing you to explore at your own pace, never rushing you or pushing you out. When you do leave, you'll carry something of the room with you, not anything physical, just a memory of its particular quality, its patient stillness, its humble honesty. The room has asked nothing of you except presence, and you've given that freely. The door waits. The handle rests in its proper position. The hinges are ready to swing. The corridor beyond maintains its own existence, unchanged by your absence. Everything is prepared for transition, for movement, for the moment when you'll step back across the threshold and continue your journey. But that moment hasn't arrived yet. You're still here, in this room, held gently in its quiet embrace, breathing its air, standing on its floor, surrounded by its walls and ceiling and the accumulated presence of all the simple objects it contains. The light from the window has continued its subtle shift while you've been exploring. It's warmer now, suggesting evening despite the absence of any visible sun or sky. The illumination has taken on a golden quality, softer and more amber than the cooler light you entered. Everything in the room responds to this change, glowing slightly, as though lit from within rather than merely reflecting external light. The walls, which seemed plain before, now reveal depth in their painted surface. The faint pattern you noticed earlier becomes slightly more visible in this angled light, its suggestion of curves and swirls catching the gold and holding it briefly before releasing it back into the room. The walls seem to breathe with light, taking it in and giving it out in a continuous, gentle exchange. The table's surface glows warmly, its grain enhanced by the changing illumination. Each line in the wood stands out more clearly, each variation in color becomes more distinct. The cup and folded cloth cast longer shadows now, reaching across the table toward the wall, their silhouettes stretching and softening as the light continues its slow arc. You move to the chair and sit again, watching how the light transforms everything. The floor, already beautiful, becomes even more so, each board highlighted, each worn path more visible, each gap between boards creating a fine dark line that helps define the overall pattern. The floor is a composition now, not just a surface, an artwork created through use and time and the patient action of countless feet. The beam overhead catches the light along its lower edge, creating a line of gold that contrasts with the shadow above it. The beam suddenly looks less like structure and more like sculpture, an intentional design element placed for aesthetic purposes as much as practical ones. Perhaps it always was both, and you're only now seeing it fully, understanding how something can be simultaneously functional and beautiful without contradiction. The objects on the shelf, the stone, the bowl, the spool of thread, all glow in their own ways. The stone's bands of color become more pronounced, the bowl's pale wood warms to honey, the thread takes on a slight sheen where the light strikes its wound surface. These simple things, already perfect in their simplicity, are elevated by the light into something approaching the sublime. Not because they've changed, but because you're seeing them more completely. You become aware of your own body bathed in this warm light. Your hands, resting on the chair's arms, look different, more substantial, more real. The light touches your skin and makes it glow softly, makes you part of the room's golden transformation. You're not separate from this environment. You're incorporated into it, another element receiving and reflecting light, participating in the general luminescence. The window itself becomes a source of pure radiance, too bright to look at directly, yet not harsh or painful to the eye. It's a gentle brightness, inviting rather than demanding, offering its light without insisting you accept it. The light pours into the room like water, filling it from the window backward, creating gradients of brightness that fade gradually from brilliant to merely bright to softly lit to gently shadowed. This is the room's gift to you, this golden hour that exists outside of clock time, this moment of perfect illumination when everything reveals its essential nature. The light shows you what you've been looking at all along, but shows it more clearly, more truthfully, more beautifully. Nothing has been added. Everything is exactly as it was. Yet the light transforms perception, reveals hidden dimensions, creates beauty through simple revelation. You sit very still, not wanting to disturb this moment, wanting to let it unfold completely before it begins its inevitable fade. The light will change again, moving toward dusk, toward evening, toward eventual darkness. But for now, it holds at this perfect point, this balance between day and night, this golden mean where everything glows and nothing is hidden, where the room offers itself completely, without reservation, without holding anything back. Time, which has seemed suspended throughout your stay, reasserts itself gently. Not dramatically, not with any sense of urgency, but simply as a fact that exists alongside all the other facts you've discovered here. You've been in this room for a while now, you're not sure how long, and it doesn't matter. Long enough to see it completely, to understand its elements, to feel its particular quality of presence. You rise from the chair one final time. Your body unfolds easily, without stiffness or complaint. The room has been good for your body, apparently. You feel rested without having slept, refreshed without having exerted yourself, renewed through the simple act of being present and attentive. These are the room's gifts: rest, attention, presence, peace. You walk slowly around the space one more time, saying a kind of wordless goodbye to each element. The table receives your glance and seems to acknowledge it, though of course tables don't see or acknowledge anything. Still, there's a sense of exchange, of mutual recognition between you and this simple furniture that has served so many people, that will continue serving long after you've gone. The shelf with its 3 objects gets a longer look. Stone, bowl, thread, you've memorized them now, could describe them with your eyes closed. They've revealed themselves to you, shown you what they are and how they exist, asked nothing in return except that you see them, really see them, without the overlay of expectation or interpretation. You've done that, and in doing so, you've received something valuable, a lesson in simple presence, in being what you are without apology or enhancement. The walls, which seemed so plain when you first entered, now feel like old friends. You've traced their surface, noticed their repairs, seen their hidden patterns. They've held you safely throughout your visit, providing boundary and shelter, giving you the gift of interior space, of a place set apart from the general everywhere. You touch one wall briefly in thanks, and the cool plaster receives your warmth without comment. The window draws you one last time. You stand before it, looking out at that abstract luminescence, that sourceless light that reveals nothing of what lies beyond. You've learned that sometimes it's enough to be at the threshold, to stand at the boundary between here and there, without needing to see or know or understand what's on the other side. The window has taught you about boundaries that connect rather than separate, about surfaces that receive without absorbing, about transparency that doesn't reveal but simply allows passage of light. The floor beneath your feet, the beam above your head, the air between, all of these have become familiar now. You know this room, not intellectually but in some deeper way, in your body, in your breath, in your memory. This room will stay with you, a reference point, a place you can return to in imagination even when you're far from here, even when you're nowhere near any corridor or door. You move to the door. Your hand finds the handle, and this time you turn it. The mechanism clicks, just as it did when you entered, smooth and precise. You pull the door open and see the corridor beyond, exactly as you left it, quiet, patient, extending in both directions, lit by that same sourceless light. The corridor has been waiting, but not impatiently. It exists in its own timelessness, ready whenever you choose to re-enter it. You step through the doorway, crossing the threshold. Behind you, the room settles into itself, returning to its undisturbed state. The table, the chair, the shelf with its objects, the walls and floor and ceiling, all remain exactly as they were, ready for whoever comes next, ready to offer the same quiet gifts you've received. The room doesn't belong to you. You were just a visitor, a temporary presence, and now you're leaving, returning the room to its essential solitude. You close the door gently, hearing the latch click into place. The handle settles back to its resting position. The door becomes just another door in the corridor's long wall, identical to dozens of others, distinguished only by its position, by the memory you now carry of what lies beyond it. You could return to this door anytime, could open it again, could spend another unmeasured period in that simple room. The option remains available, always. The corridor receives you back into its patient progress. You begin walking, your footsteps silent on the cool stone. The room you've left continues existing behind you, but it's no longer yours. It belongs to itself, to its own quiet being, to whoever might next turn its handle and step inside. You carry forward only memory, only the echo of peace, only the gentle understanding that sometimes the simplest spaces offer the deepest rest. The corridor stretches ahead and behind, continuous and calm. You've returned from the room without leaving the corridor's essential nature. You're walking again, moving forward through this patient architecture, this endless hall of doors and possibilities. The door you entered is behind you now, one among many, each holding its own space, its own particular quality of peace. Your breathing has settled into an even rhythm, matching your footsteps. The corridor feels different somehow, not changed, but more clearly seen. You understand now that each door offers its own small world, its own variation on stillness, its own way of providing rest and renewal. You've visited one such room, and it's given you what you needed, though you didn't know you needed it until it was offered. The light in the corridor remains constant, neither brightening nor dimming. This isn't the golden light of the room's window, but something steadier, more neutral, more continuous. It's the light of passage, of threshold, of the space between destinations. You walk through it easily, without hurry, without goal, simply being in motion through this long, patient hall. You can close your eyes if you want, can let your breathing slow even further, can allow yourself to drift towards sleep while still walking, still present, still gently held by the corridor's steady existence. The corridor will keep you safe. It asks nothing except that you keep breathing, keep being, keep allowing yourself this measured progress through space and time. Nothing urgent waits for you. Nothing demands your attention. You can simply be here, walking slowly, breathing quietly, moving through this careful architecture toward whatever comes next, whenever it comes, however it arrives.